We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Conrad Robert Murray, guilty of the crime of involuntary manslaughter.
Dramatic scenes from a Los Angeles courtroom earlier today for a story that's making headlines around the world tonight. Michael Jackson's doctor, Conrad Murray, guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The jury deliberated for under 10 hours before finding him guilty, and Ted Rowlands was at the courthouse today. Ted, the most dramatic day of many dramatic days in this trial. Were you surprised by the verdict in the end?
Not surprised, Piers, especially when you take into consideration the amount of time that the jury deliberated. It was in that spot where if they did come to a unanimous decision, which we knew they obviously did because they came to a verdict, and it was only 10 hours of deliberation, likely it was going to be guilty. That said, you never know what they're going to say. But I wouldn't say that many people were in that courtroom were surprised.
And what was the reaction from Michael Jackson's family? You could hear a few gasps when the verdict was announced. Was that from members of his family?
Yeah, it was from right behind me. It was LaToya Jackson and Kathy Hilton. They were sitting basically next to each other, and when the verdict was announced, you could hear it over the audio transmission, but I could definitely hear it right behind me, and in the courtroom it was very loud. Other than that, the Jacksons didn't make much in terms of a noticeable reaction right away. There were 17 family members, the most we've seen all day, but a poignant moment came late after the jury had left. David Walgren, the lead prosecutor in this case, gave a hug to Jermaine Jackson and then to Mrs. Jackson, and you could tell that they were very appreciative of their work, the district attorney's work in this case.
Now, Ted, the maximum sentence is 4 years, and there's also this whole issue of whether he can carry on practicing as a doctor. What are you anticipating will be the outcome here?
Well, his medical license in each of the states where he practices will have to be dealt with by those medical boards. A court of law has no control over that. However, the California Medical Board has already indicated they will suspend his license. He could try to petition back for it later, but that would be a whole nother process. He's looking at 4 years max. However, it's likely he'll probably spend about 2 years, and that 2 years may be in a county jail because of funding issues in the state of California. Here's
Ted Rowlands. You've done a fantastic job on this trial from start to finish. Thank you again tonight for your report.
Thanks.
Joining me now in an exclusive primetime interview, a member of Dr. Murray's defense team, Nareg Gorgian. Mr. Gorgian, obviously not a good day for the defense team. What went wrong?
Well, you know, I think what went wrong was a lot of the pretrial rulings that were made by the court in reference to some of the evidence that we plan to offer for the jury to consider. I think that's essentially what denied Dr. Murray a fair trial in this case.
And how did Dr. Murray react after he realized that he had been found guilty of effectively killing Michael Jackson, one of the most iconic entertainers of our lifetime?
Well, he was clearly devastated. He loved Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson was one of his closest friends, so being convicted of causing Mr. Jackson's death was devastating to Dr. Murray.
Where is Dr. Murray tonight?
Dr. Murray is currently at the inmate reception center where he's being going through the booking process. Upon completion of his booking process, he will then be transferred to one of the facilities, which will either be Twin Towers or the men's central jail.
What are you expecting as a member of his defense team will be the final sentence here? Obviously, he could get the maximum of 4 years. What do you think would be a fair punishment, given that he's been convicted?
Sure, the judge has several options in this case. The judge can either grant probation and sentence him to up to 1 year in county jail, or the court can impose a state prison sentence and either pick the low term of 2 years, the mid-term of 3 years, or the high term of 4 years. You know, I'm confident, and I believe based on Dr. Murray's lack of a prior criminal record, I'm hopeful that the court would take that into account and give Dr. Murray probation with maybe a little bit of county time.
Let me ask you, I suppose, a difficult question, Mr. Gorgian, which is this really, that if I'd come to you 2 years ago, before any of this was happening, and said to you, look, I can get a doctor to come to a celebrity client with 4 gallons of propofol and pile him up with this stuff all night long. I can have tape recordings of him completely gaga, and I'll leave him to his own devices while I go off and make phone calls and so on. I mean, you would have been uneasy as a lawyer about that situation, that state of affairs, wouldn't you?
Well, Pierce, we have to remember what happened here on June 25th of 2009. Dr. Murray did not have Mr. Jackson on a drip. And that's a key point here to consider. We had witness after witness testify that propofol is not a dangerous drug. It's a safe and wonderful drug. However, if the patient is on a drip, then certain precautions need to be taken. Certain monitoring equipment or certain resuscitative equipment needs to be present. But on June 25th, Dr. Murray did not have Mr. Jackson on a drip. All he administered was about 25 milligrams of propofol, and we knew through the expert witnesses that the clinical effect on propofol is only 5 to 10 minutes. So Dr. Murray remained by Mr. Jackson's side for about 30 minutes. So the propofol was completely out of Mr. Jackson's system and therefore could not have caused Mr. Jackson's death.
Will you, under those circumstances, then be launching an appeal against this conviction?
Excuse me, would we be appealing?
Yes.
Absolutely. That's something that we discussed with Dr. Murray already. He's got his appellate remedies available, and he intends on seeking those remedies.
And finally, I mean, what kind of state is Dr. Murray in tonight? I mean, he looked a fairly broken man as he was handcuffed and led from court. Are you concerned about his mental condition?
I'm not concerned about his mental condition. Like I previously said, he is devastated as to the jury's verdict. But as far as his mental state goes, he's good. You know, he's going to be positive. We have to get ready for his sentencing in this matter, and he's confident that the appellate courts would reverse the findings by the jury.
Nara Gorgon, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Pierce.
When we come back, does Conrad Murray have grounds for an appeal? I'll ask one of the country's top legal experts.